Hello, my name is Evelyn, and I am working on option 2 for the final project for POS 435, which is focusing on women's representation in government and how it's affected by the media. So first I'm going to talk about 3 ways that the media is obstructing women's representation in government. So the first way that it is being obstructive is because there is an imbalance between the coverage of male and female candidates. We see this in general, but we also see it in how male and female candidates are being quoted in the news. So we learn in Fridkin and Kenney in chapter 5 that it's not only in state and nationwide newspapers that they're being represented unequally, but it's also that women are less likely than men to be used as sources in the news. And this is only making women look less knowledgeable and less qualified to run for office because the news is not quoting them and is not saying that these people are trustworthy, and so we can quote them and look to them for information. A second way that it is being obstructive is that there's a poor translation, that the press releases that senators are releasing, there's a poor translation through the news. Because we know that candidates are always strategic, and women are going to be focusing on communal issues, men are going to be focusing on hard issues, but the news, the media, is not focusing more on communal issues for women candidates compared to their male counterparts overall, which we learn again in chapter 5 in Fridkin and Kenney. And with this, female senators are not being presented as they want to represent themselves. People don't understand that women are going to be good at leading in, communal issues and other things. So because of this, people don't feel that it's necessary to vote for women because there's just not enough press overall, and they're not being talked about based on their strengths. And then another obstruction is that the media has an obsessive focus on female candidates' family life. And this is not the case. Male candidates don't get barely any coverage about their family unless it's, helpful, strategic for them, because that's a strategic revision of a stereotype. But we see it especially in Sarah Palin's run for office. In Rainbow Murray's text on page 102, it says that the news media began questioning Sarah Palin's choice to run for vice president given her family obligations almost immediately. And the fact that they covered her family constantly took away from the ability to cover other things like qualifications and experience and her policy positions and priorities. The family coverage of Sarah Palin was actually 26%, mentioned 26% of the time out of all of her press coverage. So the media is also a tool for change. It can be used to emphasize policies and issues rather than appearances of women, which is what's going on right now. So there needs to be a revision. We need to focus more on policies and issues. The fact that we're focusing on appearances so much is affecting young women and telling them that appearance is the most important thing. And if we can adjust that, then we can say that policies and issues are more important, and that beauty and humiliation is not necessarily the rings on the ladder to leadership. Another way that the media can be used as a tool is if we use popular media to tell younger women that leadership roles are possible. By getting women behind the cameras and telling women's stories, then we'll be able to hear about how women have been able to rise to power, and we're ultimately going to empower younger women and give younger women the idea for change. And so there's a higher chance that people will vote for women if they see women fairly represented in popular culture. We also see in Fridkin and Kenney's text that women are underrepresented in the popular media. They're in television shows specifically. On page 161 is where we found that. And so now I'm going to talk about 3 tips for a female candidate. So my first tip is be a Democrat. Now, I say this not only because there are many organizations such as Emily's List and the Feminist Majority that are supporting women specifically behind the Democratic Party, but I'm saying it because Hillary Clinton recently, with her announcement that she's running for the presidency in 2016, her coverage has been covered so much already. And so if you do run as a Democrat, you'll be able to to kind of run behind all of that media. We actually learn, according to Minnesota Public Radio, that the Democratic Party is specifically recruiting to fill seats in Congress, and that we know that women are going to vote, especially in the primaries, because it's the primaries and more people vote there. A second suggestion is to be aware of how negative campaigning is effective and ineffective. So from the American Journal of Political Science, I found a Fridkin and Kenney article that explains that the challengers are more effective at making their competitors look bad when their negative advertisements are more relevant and uncivilized. And we know that women are usually the underdog because in politics, it's the old dog status. So if you are more aggressive and you are kind of uncivil with your negative messages, it's going to work out for you, for the most part. And then my final piece of advice is to be aware of how women candidates are affected by media across nationally. We learn in the Paxton, Kunovich, and Hughes article from the Annual Review of Sociology, as well as the Kittleson and Fridkin article from the Journal of Politics and Gender, that critical mass doesn't necessarily matter. And this is overall, worldwide. And because the thing is that the patterns of press coverage nationwide are actually similar, which we found in Kittleson and Fridkin as well. So our country is just like any other country. Women are covered in the same styles and in the same ways, and therefore it's clear that if you understand how that works, then you are going to be an effective candidate. All right, thank you.